Gino Palazzolo never thought he'd become that guy, the one digging through phone records in the middle of the night, zooming in on blurry call logs, connecting dots that he wished never existed. But life with Yasmine had taken him to emotional cliff edges he never knew he could reach. And now, staring at the stack of printed phone records on the kitchen counter, he felt the weight of truth pressing down on his chest like a cinder block. It all started before the last resort. Before cameras rolled on those therapy sessions. Before the tear-filled confessions. Before the dramatic confrontations that the world would soon watch. According to Gino, the problems began long before the public ever saw cracks in their marriage. And now, he had proof receipts that showed Matt's number was the one Yasmine had been calling the whole time. The night Gino couldn't ignore, the night everything changed for Gino, started like any other. He and Yasmine had argued again. Something small, something pointless, something so typical of their new day-to-day rhythm that they barely noticed the pattern anymore. But what did stand out was how she left. No goodbye kiss, no dramatic exit, no slammed door, just a quiet, eerie calm. She mumbled something about needing space and going for a drive. Hours passed, then more hours. Midnight, 2, 4, by sunrise, Gino was pacing the living room, phone in hand, repeatedly typing and deleting messages he couldn't bring himself to send. When she finally walked in at nearly 7 a.m., she didn't offer an explanation, just a cold, irritated sigh and a dismissive wave of her hand. "It's nothing, Gino, don't be dramatic," she said, brushing past him. But something inside him broke that morning. He needed answers, and he wasn't going to let it go. Phone records don't lie, even when people do. Gino wasn't a snooper by nature, quite the opposite. But anxiety changes people, doubt reshapes them, and when trust is slipping through your fingers like sand, desperate people do desperate things. A week after that night, still haunted by the silence, the distance, and the smell of unfamiliar cologne on Yasmine's jacket, he decided to look at the phone account. After all, it was under his name, and what he found made his stomach twist. Dozens of late-night outgoing calls, dozens of incoming calls, hours-long conversations, all to the same number. At first, he didn't recognize it, a random contact, no name attached. But then, a familiar pattern began forming. The timing, the frequency, the secrecy. He narrowed his eyes, zooming in on the last 4 digits, whispering it to himself like a cursed mantra. Wait, no way, that's Matt's number? His hands began to shake. Matt, a man he barely knew, a man who was supposedly just a friend of a friend in the cast circle, a man who should not have had hours of private late-night conversations with his wife. And suddenly, everything clicked into place. The tension, the defensiveness, the sudden open marriage conversation that Yasmine insisted on, the way she had dismissed his concerns and painted him as insecure. The truth hit him like a freight train. He hadn't agreed to an open marriage because he wanted it. He'd been tricked, cornered into it, and it was all happening before the last resort. I was manipulated. I was tricked into agreeing. Gino sighed, sitting alone at the kitchen table, receipts spread around him like a crime board. Gino whispered to himself, this was before the last resort. I was tricked into agreeing to the open marriage. He remembered that painful conversation vividly. Yasmine had sat across from him, legs crossed, arms folded, wearing that impatient expression that told him she'd already made up her mind. She framed it as exploration, as growth, as something progressive that modern couples do. But now he realized it had been something entirely different, a way to justify what she was already doing with Matt. The more he stared at the timestamps, the more the truth screamed at him. This wasn't emotional confusion. This wasn't testing boundaries. This wasn't a temporary slip. This was betrayal. A long, ongoing, deliberate betrayal. And he couldn't deny it, not when the evidence was right in front of him. The breaking point, the night she never came home. When Gino thought back to the night she didn't return until sunrise, his heart sank all over again. He replayed it like a movie in his mind. Yasmine stepping out in that sparkly top, the faint smell of perfume filling the room, her vague explanation, her refusal to answer his calls. Now, the phone logs revealed the truth. That same night, she had spent hours on the phone with Matt, right before disappearing. It wasn't a coincidence, it was a roadmap. And at the end of that roadmap was a hotel room, a man named Matt, and a betrayal that would change Gino forever. Confrontation, the words that broke the illusion. The next morning, fueled by a mixture of adrenaline and heartbreak, Gino decided to confront her. He held the printed phone records in his trembling hands, heart pounding so loudly it echoed in his ears. Yasmine, he said, voice cracking, why were you calling Matt every night? Why his number? Why these long conversations? Why that whole night? She stared at the paper, then at him, then back at the paper. Her jaw tightened, her eyes narrowed, her arms folded, defensive, angry, cornered. That was nothing. You're crazy, she snapped. You always twist things, but this time, her words bounced off him like rubber bullets. The receipts were stronger than her deflections. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't scream, he didn't accuse. He simply said the truth. You lied to me, you cheated on me, and you manipulated me into thinking it was my fault. Silence, a silence louder than any shout could ever be. Matt disappears and changes his number according to Gino. Once everything came out and the cast began whispering, the fallout was immediate. Matt stopped returning Yasmine's calls, stopped replying to messages, stopped acknowledging anything, and then he changed his phone number entirely. It was erased, gone, no trace, a silent admission without ever saying a word. Gino didn't need an apology from him, he didn't need closure. The disappearance spoke for itself. The Last Resort, a reality TV pressure cooker. By the time they arrived to film The Last Resort, the relationship wasn't just strained, it was cracked wide open. And yet, both agreed to try therapy on camera. Yasmine behaved like her usual dramatic, fiery self. Gino tried to be calm, patient, and composed, behind the scenes. Though, it was chaos. Every time she said he needed to open up, he wanted to scream that he had opened up and she had walked all over him. Every time she accused him of holding on to the past, he wanted to remind her that the past had happened only months earlier. Every time she cried about feeling unloved, he wanted to ask why she sought comfort from another man while married to him.